Lord, my God and Father, in your presence I seek relief and strength in this moment when anxiety attempts to overcome me. I feel a tightness in my chest, a racing mind that finds no peace, thoughts that rush like a mighty river, carrying me away from the serenity I yearn for. It is a whirlwind of worries, fears, and uncertainties that seem to obscure your light and your promise of a future filled with hope. I know I am not alone in this struggle. Many of your children experience this inner storm, this anguish that, at times, feels insurmountable. But today, here, before you, I want to surrender this battle, not for you to contend against me, but for you to walk beside me, guiding my steps and strengthening my spirit. Anxiety often makes us feel isolated, as if we are the only ones facing this oppression, but your word assures us that in you we find refuge and solace. It is an invitation to deposit in you that which afflicts us, to trust that your love is greater than any fear, to believe that your providence extends over all areas of our lives, even when human eyes cannot see the path. This prayer is not a generic plea for peace, but a deep dive into your grace, recognizing that anxiety, though real and overwhelming in its manifestation, does not have the final word over my existence. You are the Lord of my life, the physician of my soul, the shepherd who guides me through calm waters and dark valleys. The weight I feel is not merely a matter of thought or emotion. It affects my body, my ability to enjoy simple moments, to hear your voice amidst the noise of my own mind. I am tempted to focus on what could go wrong, to anticipate negative scenarios, to feel powerless in the face of circumstances. This sense of a lack of control is one of the most challenging aspects, making me feel adrift on a sea of worries. But you, Lord, are my secure anchor. You are the harbor in the midst of the storm. I want to learn to transfer this heavy burden, to shed the chains of apprehension that bind me. The journey to inner peace is not linear. There are days of light and days of shadow, but your faithfulness is constant. What I seek today is a renewal of my faith in your sovereignty, a humble surrender that frees me from the need to have all the answers, to control the uncontrollable. It is an invitation to yield to your timing, to your perfect will, even when it presents itself in a way different from what I expected. Anxiety may whisper lies, telling me I am weak, incapable, helpless, but your truth is that in you, I am more than a conqueror, that in your strength my weakness becomes power. This prayer is for those moments when worry attempts to paralyze us, when the future appears uncertain and the present is obscured by fear. It is to acknowledge the Lord's presence amidst the confusion, to paint a picture of hope where anxiety paints only despair. It is not about ignoring problems, but about facing them with the certainty that we are not alone. It is a declaration that, despite the turmoil, there is a center of calm that can be found in you. Anxiety distances us from ourselves, disconnects us from joy and gratitude. And today, I want to reconnect with your joy, which is our strength. I want to cultivate an unwavering confidence in your ability to sustain me, in your promise that all things work together for the good of those who love you. It is a moment of introspection, yes, but above all, a moment of projecting faith, of believing that your hand is extended to lift me, to guide me, and to restore me. Lord, my refuge and strength, at this moment, I focus on the dissolution of the shackles that the anticipation of future evils weaves in my mind. Anxiety, in its cunning, diverts my gaze from the present you give me, and projects me into hypothetical scenarios, often devoid of their true dimension, but laden with devastating emotional weight. It is as if a veil of constant concern cloaks the beauty and opportunities of the now, replacing them with an incessant cycle of negative expectations and unfounded fears. This mental projection, often fueled by memories of past adversities or by fragmented information, creates a parallel reality where danger seems imminent and resolution unattainable. This capacity to anticipate the worst, a defense mechanism that has become dysfunctional, robs me of peace and prevents me from enjoying the gifts you pour out daily. I believe your will for me is not to live in constant vigilance of foreseen misfortunes, but rather in an attentive and confident presence on the path you chart with each step. Therefore, I implore divine intervention to dismantle this incessant projection of misfortunes. I ask that my mental faculties be reoriented, not to deny the existence of challenges, but to face them with a perspective of trust in your providence and in my own capabilities, strengthened by you. May I learn to distinguish between a realistic assessment of risks and anxious rumination, which only exacerbates suffering. It is an invitation to cultivate a new mental habit, that of bringing my concerns into the present moment, to evaluate them in light of your word and your truth, rather than allowing them to consume my emotional energy in an uncertain future. May my imagination, instead of conjuring catastrophes, be inspired to conceive solutions, to visualize overcoming, and to anticipate your deliverances. The practice of focusing on the now with renewed gratitude, recognizing the tangible and intangible blessings that surround me, is a powerful antidote against this attachment to the feared future. At this moment, I turn my eyes to you, seeking the wisdom to discern the origin of these projected anxieties. Are they a reflection of past experiences not fully processed, or a thought pattern fueled by external influences? Regardless of the root, your grace is sufficient to bring deliverance. May I, with your help, identify the triggers that set off this spiral of worry and develop internal strategies to break the cycle. This may involve practicing mindfulness exercises, which anchor me in the present, or consulting resources that teach me cognitive restructuring techniques. The important thing is that these tools be used in alliance with you, as means that you use to restore me. May my faith not be mere intellectual assent, but a living force that empowers me to act, to change patterns, and to live with the peace that surpasses all understanding. I trust that the relief I seek is not merely an absence of worry, but the vibrant presence of your peace, which sustains me even amidst life's tempests. Lord, in every moment, through your mercy, I seek clarity to disassociate truth from the illusion that anxiety weaves. It often operates as a relentless judge, delivering verdicts based on flimsy evidence, on suppositions conjured by the restless mind itself. This internal judgment, devoid of your justice and compassion, leads me to a state of severe self-criticism, where every perceived flaw, however minor, is amplified to catastrophic proportions. This tendency to evaluate myself so harshly, as if each mistake were a decree of inadequacy, prevents me from recognizing my own strengths and the progress I have been making, with your help. It is as if I am perpetually under scrutiny, never meeting a standard of perfection dictated by anxiety itself. This internal pressure, however it disguises itself as self-awareness, is actually a distortion of reality, a lens that shows me only the negative aspects, ignoring the complete picture that you, in your wisdom, perceive. Furthermore, anxiety frequently induces me into an unfair social comparison, where my journey is measured against the apparent success of others. This metric, based on appearances that are often meticulously constructed, only serves to fuel a sense of inadequacy, of always being a step behind. I see the achievements of others, their seemingly smoother paths, and I question my own capabilities, my own worth. This type of comparison, Lord, is a trap that diverts focus from the path you have charted for me individually. Each of us has a unique purpose, distinct talents, and a particular time for blossoming. By fixating on others, I lose the opportunity to cultivate my own garden, to nurture the seeds you have planted in my heart. In contrast, what I seek now is the ability to extricate myself from this system of arbitrary judgment, both internal and external. I desire to cultivate profound self-acceptance, grounded in the knowledge that I am unconditionally loved by you, regardless of my imperfections or my achievements. I want to learn to celebrate my small victories, to recognize my own intrinsic worth, not through my own merit, but through the redemption you offer me in Christ. This shift in perspective is crucial. It liberates me from the need for external validation and allows me to walk my path with greater authenticity and confidence. Moreover, my aspiration is to cultivate genuine self-compassion. This entails treating myself with the same kindness, patience, and understanding I would extend to a cherished friend navigating adversity. When I stumble, when I err, rather than castigating myself harshly, I wish to offer words of encouragement, forgiveness, and hope. I recognize this as a virtue mirroring your own love for us, a love unconditioned by our performance, bestowed freely. This practice of self-compassion serves as a potent antidote to corrosive self-criticism, constructing a robust foundation of emotional resilience. Therefore, I implore you to grant me the necessary grace to internalize this approach, so that anxiety may no longer find fertile ground in a soil of self-judgment and comparison. Lord, I now seek to refine my understanding of how anxiety impacts me within the sphere of my vocation or life's purpose. Frequently, the dread of failing to fulfill what I perceive as my calling paralyzes me, obscuring the clarity requisite for taking the next steps. This apprehension manifests not merely as superficial worry, but as a profound doubt concerning my capabilities, the genuine value of my service, and its potential impact. Anxiety inverts perspective. Instead of viewing purpose as a journey of learning and growth, I see it as a stage where perfection is the sole acceptable outcome, and failure, a definitive sentence of spiritual or professional incompetence. This distortion prevents me from embracing the learning opportunities inherent in mistakes, transforming them into insurmountable barriers, rather than rungs on the ladder of evolution. The manner in which anxiety compels me to overestimate the gravity of potential failures and underestimate the immensity of your grace and restorative power is particularly insidious. It whispers that my contributions are inadequate, that I am squandering my potential, or more direly, that I am dishonoring you through my perceived inadequacy. This narrative, while beguiling, disregards your promise to supply all my needs and to utilize even my weaknesses to manifest your strength. The arena in which I propose to serve, be it professional, ministerial, familial, or communal, becomes a minefield of anxiety, where every decision is weighed with the apprehension of a disastrous outcome. It is crucial at this juncture that I learn to disentangle my identity and my worth from the perceived success or failure of my endeavors. The Lord has called me not to unattainable perfection, but to faithfulness, to genuine love, and to perseverance in the work you have entrusted to me. Anxiety, conversely, seeks to convince me that my value resides solely in the excellence of my results, a human and fallible metric. I must, therefore, cultivate the confidence that my calling is not an aptitude test I must pass, but a journey of relationship with you, where growth and surrender are more significant than the absence of setbacks. In this regard, what I seek is a renewed understanding of liberating grace, the kind that allows me to act without the tyranny of perfection. Permit me, Lord, to face the challenges of my vocation with the courage of one who knows they are not alone. May I learn to view difficulties not as signs of failure, but as opportunities to demonstrate dependence on you and to discover internal resources that only your presence can awaken. The action itself, even if imperfect, becomes an act of faith, a demonstration that, despite anxiety, I choose to trust in you and advance on the path you have outlined. This posture of active faith, of acting despite fear, is what gradually erodes the power of anxiety over my calling and allows me to live the fullness of what you have planned for me. Lord, when considering the manifestation of anxiety in the realm of finances and material security, I recognize the profound root of concern it establishes, the fear of not providing, of not having enough for basic needs or for future plans, acts as a subtle poison that undermines trust in your provision. This affliction manifests in a reluctance to make bold financial decisions, in constant vigilance over every penny, in the difficulty of enjoying what one already possesses, as the mind is always focused on potential scarcity. It is the apprehension that tomorrow will bring insurmountable difficulties, that current efforts will be in vain in the face of an uncertain future. This worry can lead to extreme attitudes, whether excessive stinginess, as a mechanism to try to control the uncontrollable, or in the desperate impulsivity of seeking quick and unsustainable solutions. In this context, my aim is to liberate my mind from the tyranny of what if. Rather than becoming lost in projecting scenarios of lack, I desire to cultivate an active faith in your capacity to supply all my needs, as you have promised in your word. This is not to say I will ignore financial responsibility, but rather to approach it with a mindset of faithful stewardship and trust, as opposed to panic and despair. It is learning to believe that by sowing diligently and wisely, I will reap the fruits of your provision, even if the planting and harvesting cycle does not align perfectly with my immediate expectations. Financial anxiety would try to convince me that I must control every variable, but faith teaches me to surrender control of the variables beyond my reach to the Almighty. Furthermore, financial anxiety manifests as difficulty discerning between genuine needs and desires, created by unbridled consumerism, often fueled by comparison with others. The pressure to maintain a certain lifestyle, or to acquire possessions that signify success, becomes a driver of constant worry. This pursuit of external validation through material possessions blinds one to true value, which resides in gratitude for what one has and generosity in sharing. The fear of not meeting societal expectations, or worse, of failing to correspond to what one believes God desires for us in terms of sustenance, can lead to a vicious cycle of anxiety and dissatisfaction. Therefore, what I aspire to is a reorientation of my financial priorities, aligning them with the principles of the kingdom. This involves cultivating a generous heart, one that views finances not as an end in itself, but as a means to bless and to serve. I wish to learn to enjoy the present with gratitude, trusting that your providing hand will open the necessary paths for the future. This paradigm shift, from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance and divine confidence, is what will allow me to live without the constant oppression of financial anxiety. May my management of resources be a testament to my faith in you, the God who supplies all lack. Lord, anxiety concerning interpersonal relationships frequently manifests as a paralyzing fear of judgment or rejection, leading to an incessant pursuit of external approval. When faced with family, friends, or colleagues, I feel a pressure to conform to expectations that are not always clear, fearing that any social misstep, any misplaced word, might seal my fate of isolation. This dread of not being good enough, of not belonging, can lead to self-imposed isolation, a defense mechanism that paradoxically deepens the very loneliness I am trying to avoid. It is a vicious cycle. The longing for connection makes me apprehensive, and this apprehension pushes me away from people, reinforcing the belief that I am, indeed, undesirable. Furthermore, social anxiety can warp my perception of reality, causing me to interpret neutral glances as disapproval, silences as exclusion, and innocent jokes as personal attacks. This hypervigilance in interactions, this constant deciphering of hidden cues, drains my mental energy and prevents me from genuinely enjoying the company of others. The expectation that something will go awry in every encounter, that I will be exposed in my insecurities, strips away the spontaneity and naturalness that forge authentic bonds. Instead of presenting myself as I truly am, with my strengths and flaws, I tend to construct a facade, a persona I believe will be more readily accepted, but which, deep down, distances me further from myself and from others. What I seek, Lord, is the dismantling of this dynamic of fear and attachment to approval. I yearn for the courage to be authentic, to present myself to the world with vulnerability, trusting that your love authenticates me, irrespective of human acceptance. May I learn to discern between the instinct for self-preservation and the anxious projection of non-existent danger in relationships. I wish to cultivate the certainty that my worth is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the truth that I am your child, created in your image and loved unconditionally. This would enable me to establish healthy boundaries, articulate my needs clearly, and embrace reciprocity in relationships that respect my individuality. Consequently, what I aspire to is a redefinition of my perspective on human relationships. May I view them as opportunities for mutual growth and shared experience, rather than as arenas of judgment. I desire to develop the capacity to forgive, both myself for my social missteps and others for their imperfections, mirroring the forgiveness I receive from you. This approach would allow me to nurture deeper and more meaningful connections, grounded in trust and transparency, rather than in anxiety and superficiality. May I, in every interaction, be a reflection of your love, demonstrating patience, kindness, and acceptance, both towards others and towards myself. Reflecting on this shared journey, we perceive how the various facets of anxiety intertwine, forming a complex tapestry of apprehensions that, at times, seem to obscure the light of hope. We have seen how the mind, in its capacity to project uncertain futures, can become fertile ground for the proliferation of unfounded fears, distorting the perception of reality and stealing the peace of the present moment. This tendency to anticipate the worst, like a storm that announces itself before the sky even shows the first cloud, demands a profound reorientation of our gaze, a genuine shift in how we approach the unknown. As we delve deeper into the implications of our internal scrutiny, we realize that the harsh judgment we impose upon ourselves is one of anxiety's most potent allies. This distorted lens, which magnifies failures and minimizes achievements, crafts a narrative of inadequacy that erodes self-confidence and the capacity to act with equanimity. Comparing our own journey to that of others, however subtly, only intensifies this sense of falling behind, as if engaged in a race where the starting line and the rules are perpetually altered to our disadvantage. Detaching oneself from this external metric and cultivating genuine self-compassion is, therefore, a crucial step toward finding more solid ground. Subsequently, as we explore vocation and purpose, we ascertain that anxiety can transform a divine calling into an oppressive burden, where the fear of failure supplants the joy of surrender. The pressure for flawless outcomes, the doubt regarding one's own aptitude, and the dread of disappointment create an environment where action becomes an act of extreme courage rather than a natural expression of faith. This distortion prevents us from glimpsing the learning opportunities that emerge from adversity, leading us to overestimate the gravity of each misstep, as if a minor deviation in the path could invalidate the entire journey. Regarding material security and finances, anxiety manifests as a cycle of incessant worry about the future, where a lack of control over circumstances fuels a latent fear of scarcity. This apprehension pulls us away from gratitude for the present and propels us into a state of constant vigilance, hindering trust in divine provision and faithfulness in stewardship. The pursuit of external approval through material possessions, often fueled by comparison, exacerbates this scarcity mentality, diverting focus from the true value found in generosity and gratitude. Finally, as we enter the realm of interpersonal relationships, anxiety reveals itself as an obstacle to genuine connection, manifesting as a fear of judgment, a quest for approval, and a distorted interpretation of others' intentions. The fear of rejection leads us to isolation, even as the yearning for belonging renders us excessively cautious and artificial. This dynamic impedes the spontaneity, vulnerability, and depth that characterize authentic bonds, transforming social interactions into arenas of tension and self-surveillance. Understanding how these various facets of anxiety interconnect is essential for us to collectively advance toward a place of greater peace and confidence.